Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Extra Gents. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. Time for another fragrance review. Today we're taking a look at Frank Los Angeles #2. Yeah, taking a deuce. A long time ago, many years ago, I bought Frank #3. Now I got Frank #2. And I guess last I'll get Frank #1. So I worked in reverse order. In today's video, let's try that again. In today's video, I'm gonna show you guys the presentation. I'm gonna break the fragrance down for you a little bit, let you know what it smells similar to, and let you know why I think this is actually a pretty sick fragrance. So let's jump into it. So like I said, got this one from LuckyScent.com. It runs $140 full retail. That's for this 100 ml size bottle. So as far as niche fragrances go, it's actually really cheap because at this point you get designer fragrances for $140 for 100 ml bottle size. So this is essentially a niche fragrance at a designer price point. Yeah, imagine that, imagine that. Go back a number of years ago. I bet a lot of you would not have expected to be buying just regular mainline designer fragrances at those price points. But, you know, it's the world we live in. If you do shop at LuckyScent.com, use the code GENTS10. That'll save you 10% off your order. So it'll actually be a little bit under $140. Let's go ahead and take a look at the presentation really quickly, and then we'll jump into the fragrance itself. So here you have the front of the box. You have the name of the house, the fragrance, and the concentration on the front. No size on the front. You have a F on top of the box, established 2003, nothing on the sides. On the back, just a website. And then on the bottom, you have your ingredient information and your size. And here we have the bottle. Looks like an apothecary style bottle to an extent there. Name of the house, name of the fragrance on the front, and there's nothing on the bottom. And the cap slides into place, does not click into place, but pretty snug as you can see. And as always, wasting sprays. Let's do it. There we go. So as I said, Frank #3, that's the first one that I bought. That one got a little bit of hype as a really high quality tobacco fragrance, and for the price, I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. At first, I didn't like Frank #3 very much. Over the years, it grew on me, but when I first got it in, I was actually a little bit disappointed. I don't know why, it just didn't really live up to expectations, I guess. The type of sweetness that it had didn't work all that well off my skin. But then over time, like I said, I came around to like it more. Frank #2, different story. This one I was intrigued in right from the get-go because this has been compared to a fragrance that I absolutely love that has gotten more difficult to find, and it's this one, Michael Kors for men. Michael Kors, if you go back to, I think the first designer top 10 list that I ever did on my main channel, it was like a fall top 10 list. Michael Kors was one of the fragrances that I said I was in love with. I really do like this a lot. At the time, you could still find it pretty easily. Nowadays, you can't. So with Frank #2 potentially being like Michael Kors, but higher quality, better smelling, smoother, richer, all that stuff, yeah, count me in. And frankly, Frank Los Angeles. Frankly, for the cost, $140 for 100 mils full retail, $14 off, 126. That's looking pretty good. So how does it smell when you first spray it on? Well, you get lavender, you get coriander right away. You can pick them both up easily. It has a slight barbershop-y feel to it, so it's very fresh, it's clean in that initial blast, that initial salvo. You get a little bit of citrus, but not too much. It's kind of lurking along the periphery. You can pick up faint hints of it, but not too much. There is a slight greenness as well that's kind of working hand in hand with that citrus, but it pretty quickly fades away as the fragrance starts to dry down and that barbershop-y feel from the opening starts to dissipate. At that point, you start to pick up this fruity, dark plum note, and that's where it starts to draw in a bit closer to Michael Kors with the dried fruits that were in this fragrance. The plum smells really good, very rich, very smooth, and the fragrance absolutely does come across smoother than Michael Kors. So that's a big plus. You get this very nice woodiness that starts to come out and make itself known, and you get this boozy sweetness melding together with the plum, almost like you could say it's a booze-soaked dried plum note, giving you that sweetness, that richness, that depth in the mid. There's also a coffee note here, but I don't really pick any of the coffee up. Do I wish that maybe I did pick up a little bit more of that? Yeah, I think that would be pretty interesting, assuming it's pulled off well, but I don't get much of it. Maybe there's this faint dustiness that I could say is the coffee note, but it doesn't really smell like coffee to me. As it dries, those woods come out more, this like faint, fuzzy woodiness mixing together with musk, and then that plum and that booze, they stay for a long time through the mid and the dry down. So really the biggest change here is gonna be from the opening into the mid, because it has this fresh, again, semi-barbershop opening that very quickly starts to seg into the booze, the fruit, the wood, and that change is pretty big. It's pretty substantial. But once it settles in the mid, it stays off my skin anyway, pretty consistent the rest of the way through. It's just, it slowly fades off your skin, so it's, you know, losing a little bit of that projection as it stays on your skin longer, but the fragrance itself stays pretty consistent at that point. So all that said, does Frank number 2 smell like Michael Kors? Well, yes. And no, but yes. The opening between the two is pretty different, but once they settle in, they get much more similar. That being said, tobacco leaf is missing from Frank number 2, and you will find that in the Michael Kors. But that's not really a make it or break it type thing. They still have a decent similarity. Frank number 2 is smoother, absolutely. Smells higher quality. It's richer. It's way easier to find nowadays, so that's a big positive. And I think between the two, that Frank number 2 it's actually a little bit more interesting as well. I still love Michael Kors. I think this smells fantastic. One of my favorite designer tobacco fragrances, but unfortunately, a lot of my favorite designer tobacco fragrances have gone the way of the dodo. So Frank number 2 kind of stepping right in, taking its place and giving me something that's even better. Nice, I'll take that. Let's talk about performance, you know, projection, longevity, when you would wear it, all that stuff. So the performance with this one is a little bit tricky, a little bit weird. This fragrance, there have been a few times that I've been wearing it and I'll smell it, you know, like right up close. And I'll think to myself, it's pretty weak. Seems like it's going away. You know, it's not really there anymore. And then I'll go about my day. I'll be doing something. And then I'll catch a big waft of it. Like a big hit of that fragrance suddenly comes up, like a substantial one. I'll just be like, whoa, where'd that come from? I just had my nose pressed into my skin. I couldn't really smell it. And now all of a sudden I'm getting hit with a big blast. Wild. So this is one of those fragrances that for whatever reason, when I'm sitting still, not really doing much, it's like the fragrance just sits super close to my skin, even if you go in for a sniff. But then as soon as you start doing something, it's like your scent cloud just suddenly goes woof and just gets supercharged. If it happened once or twice, I would write it off, but it happens every time I've worn it, so go figure. So on the whole, longevity is above average, but there are times where it will trick you and you'll think it's not there. And same thing goes for projection. It's above average, but there are times, especially if you smell it up close, where it seems like it's weak, but it's not. So yeah, it's very interesting. Now I will say in the opening, in the first part of the mid, you'll have no problems. Like it won't smell weak at all at that point. You can smell up close and it'll really hit you. It's just as it dries down, after it's been on your skin for a couple hours, you'll think, oh, it's sitting really close to my skin. As soon as you start doing something, nope. As far as seasons, gonna be more of a fall and wintertime fragrance. You could maybe do it in like early spring as well, but pretty much the same time that I would reach for Michael Kors essentially. Daytime or nighttime for me. I think you can wear it either one just about as well. And this one is an immediate love for me. Now that shouldn't be much of a surprise because the fragrance that it is compared to sometimes, that it has a little bit of a similarity to, is one of my favorite, as I said, designer fall and winter tobacco fragrances ever. And so for it to give me a somewhat similar vibe to that for a cost that's not high at all for a niche fragrance, for the full presentation, with good performance, good longevity, good quality, like a smoother, richer take on that Michael Kors fragrance that I really dig. Yeah, this is an obvious win for me. This is an easy love. So there we go, guys. Frank Los Angeles, number 2, inexpensive niche fragrance, all things considered. Really good fall and wintertime fragrance. Lately, I've had some really good luck with some new niche and indie fragrances that are more fall and wintertime scents. You know, good for cool weather, rich, warm, spicy, sweet, that kind of stuff. You know, sometimes you get those blind buys and they're not good. They don't work for you. Other times it's what you wanted and more. So this one might be in that top 10 niche for fall this year. Guess I'll have to take stock of everything, see how everything looks, but really happy with this. Frank, Los Angeles, number 2. If you smelled that one, let me know what you think about it in the comments. Also, if you smelled number 1 or number 3, sounds like I'm talking about Slipknot or something. From Frank, Los Angeles, let me know what you think about them in the comments. Thank you for hanging with me. Thanks for your support. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.